Group 2 and 3 are this weekend and feature big names like Clix, Peterbot, Mr. Savage, Mongrel, and so many others. I wanted to do one final in-depth look at each of the maps, every single team that is going to be playing in it, who is actually going to be contested, and my final predictions for these groups as well. Real quick, this video starts though, please subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop. Remember, make sure you guys follow me on my Twitch or show up here on the day of grand finals, because I want to see all of you guys in here to watch grand finals together. Without further ado though, let's get this video started. Alright, so I want to start this video off by going over the entire group 2 map, and then I will give my predictions and my thoughts on just everything in general. The main big names that we have in this group is like Mush Shadow and Sphinx getting an uncontested resistance base, similar to as they already have throughout the entire season. Same story for somebody like Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs getting an Uncon Supernova Academy. If you guys are wondering when this group actually is, it is going to be on Saturday. If you don't know how the group stages work as well, it is 5 total matches, and then the 5 game winners from there will go straight into grand finals, and then the 5 trios that played the most consistently will also be going to grand finals, sending a total of 10 teams to grands from every single group. I think we have 2 big off spawn fights in this group. The first one that I want to talk about is Phaser King and PHZen versus Akaran, Jake, and Dogo. Not super sure too much about Jake's trio, but obviously we do know that Phaser King and PHZen has just came down from Brazil to be able to play this season on NA for extra practice before globals. For how the actual off spawn situation is probably going to go here at Lone Wolf Lair, we have seen King's trio fight off spawn a couple of times, and they haven't necessarily been like the most dominant off spawn team. I really hope though that they're able to win this off spawn fight, because can you imagine how annoying that would be if you flew all the way down from Brazil to NA just to be able to get some extra practice before globals, knowing that you probably could have won FNCS on Brazil if you stayed over there, and then imagine if you weren't even able to qualify for grands. I hope that this off spawn doesn't turn into a grief fest. The other off spawn fight that we have though, that I am very excited to see how it's gonna go, because this is 2 real grand finals caliber teams, and one of the teams has already qualified for LAN. It is the fight between Skittles, Dash, and Bryce versus Visuals, Braids, and Diminished. These guys have pretty much been going head to head the entire season. Pretty much every single tournament that these guys have contested each other though, neither one of them seem to place very well, and that is why it is kind of leading to a concerning sign, especially if you're looking at the team right next to them right here at an uncontested crime city of Canada Bolts and Rapid. This could potentially be a free third party for this trio right here if they wanted to get just free elims and surge as well. I think both of these teams are kind of just hoping that Canada Bolts and Rapid go out there, win game 1, and then after that one of them can either leave to crime city or they won't have to worry about potentially getting cleaned up. But this is going to be a very big off spawn fight to look out for. All right, now for my actual predictions for this group, for my game winning predictions, I'm going to start off and go with Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs. Now I know last season in their group it was a really difficult and rough performance from them. They literally finished in exactly 10th place. I know everybody was majorly trash talking that trio after their group's performance, and I don't think they want a similar thing to happen this season. I don't think they're necessarily going to go out there and win game 1. I think they do want to still be able to play potentially up until like game 4, but I think somewhere around that, either game 3, 4, or 5, they're going to be able to pull off the win, and I do think that they are going to qualify to grands from getting a game win. The trio though, that if I had to predict a game 1 winner, I would go with the team of Canada Bolts and Rapid. Canada just seems to be like the game 1 of groups winning merchant every single season basically, and I feel like it can be the exact same story. We know that this team is very good at getting wins. I would not be surprised at all if by the time the first moving is starting in game 1, if we do see Canada up on high ground spraying down with him and Rapid and their dashes and everything. So I'm also going to predict them to get a win. The next team that I am going to predict to get a win is Visuals, Braids, and Diminished. Now I know that they are contested, so I feel like if they are able to win off spawn, they're going to want to maximize their potential, and they're not going to be messing around. They are going to be trying to get a win. This is a team that knows how to win games as well. They've won games in eval cups, they've won games in grand finals. I'm pretty sure they won a game in the group stages last season as well. This is definitely a team that if need be can win games, and I do think that they will be able to get the job done and do exactly that. So now we have 2 game winners left, and the other 2 teams I'm going to go with to get wins is Seek, Donnie, and Joji. They currently have an uncontested shining span. We saw Donnie have a crazy clutch last season in their actual group to clutch a win to be able to secure their spot in grands, and I'm not necessarily predicting like a crazy clutch once again, but I do think that this trio has the capabilities to be able to win a game. And then the last trio that I'm going to predict to get a win is probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in this lobby of Muzz, Shadow, and Sphinx. This team has looked super good in all of the Evo Cups that they have played, winning games in multiple of them, and that is why I'm going to also predict them to win a game in their group as well. Now for the most consistent trios that I want to go with, the first team that I want to talk about is Noisy, Creon, and Tony. Now this team has an uncontested pump power, which I feel like Creon has literally been landing pump power like the day since that POI got added onto the map. This is 100% a grand finals caliber team, and I would not be surprised if this team won a game, but I'm going to say they're going to qualify through consistency. The next team that I want to go over is Phaser, King, and PH Zen. I think even though they are contested, they will still be able to pull it off and qualify for grands. I don't know if this is maybe just some personal bias because I want to see them in grand finals, and I don't want the situation that I talked about earlier of them coming all the way to NA to not even qualify for grands happen. So I am going to predict these guys to qualify through consistency. Another contested team that I want to talk about is Skittles, Dash, and Bryce. I think if I'm going to predict Visuals Trio to be able to get a win, then I pretty much have to predict Skittles Trio to be able to qualify through consistency as well. And it's not like they're a bad trio or anything, or a trio that's not in the caliber of being able to make it into a grand finals. Bryce X was literally a LAN player these past couple of years, and I definitely do think it would be a big upset if they're not able to make it into grands. And then the final 2 trios that I ended up picking were kind of more just like shots in the dark. Not super confident in these picks necessarily, but I think out of the options I was given, this is probably the best choice of people I could have gone with. The first one I'm going to go with is Mason, Golden, and Chimp at an uncon shiny shafts. I think they are just a very solid trio, and they should be able to get the job done. And then the other team that I'm going with is Batman Joe, Zackles, and Slepsy at an uncon brutal boxcars. So that probably does mean that the main like big name teams that I have not being able to make it out of this group is like Noah W Plays, Chaos, and Clixy, who this was probably the other trio that I was closest to putting above Batman Joe for being able to qualify out of this group. And then the other trio would probably be like Cease, Nerface, and Zemo. Let's actually move on to EU Group 2 now though. Alright, now moving on to Group 2 of EU, we also have some pretty interesting teams contested as well. I think the main one that stands out is like Ping Walks and Malabuka versus I Am Noob at Demon's Domain. We also have like Fastroki and Kidwo and Bevies contested by Doom at Supernova Academy, and then Turtle contested by Repairs at Flooded Frogs. Some of the other big names in this that are uncon is like Focus, Mixel, and Upple, fully uncontested. Country Perdage and Finnick, fully uncon at Pump Power. One of the main teams that is probably, if they are both going to be able to make it, contesting Mongrel in grand finals. Seti Yapko and Panzer fully uncon, Pigstorm and Demas fully uncon, Ilusha fully uncon, and then like Snazy, Ice, and Clement as well fully uncon, and even Dexy, Eclipse, and Twy as well. And also Hris, Tayson, and Chicho. I'm not gonna lie, the EU groups are just always going to be so much more stacked than the NA ones. Moving on to my actual predictions now. For my winning predictions, the first team that I want to go over is Pix, Darm, and Demas. Now I said this in my video, if you actually watched it yesterday, of every trio's path to being able to win FNCS. I said Pigstorm and Demas always have to be in contention for that because they have shown in the only 2 grand finals that they have ever made that they are grand finals risers. No matter how rough it has looked for them throughout the season, I am still going to predict them to be able to get a win in their group. The next team that I'm going to predict to get a win is Seti, Yapko, and Panzer. Now when these guys are fully uncontested, I think this team just basically screams out winning a game. So I think they'll be able to get the job done and do exactly that. And then the next team that I'm going to predict to get a win, I'm pretty sure is my only team that I have getting a win from being contested. And I'm going to go with Malabuka, Ping, and Wox. This is just a funny little side note, but I literally saw this tweet the other day that said I am like currently the biggest Wox glazer. And hey, I'm all here for it. Wox is my guy. I am a Wox guy from here on out. He is still to me the most underrated player in the world, and I love being able to shine a light on some of the more underappreciated players in Fortnite. The next trio I'm going to go ahead and say is going to be able to get a win is Focus, Mixin, and Uppel. This is also probably going to be one of the biggest competitions to Mr. Savage, Shap, and Rezon off spawn at the Resistance base in Grand Finals. And I know all of you Mr. Savage fans out there are going to be absolutely hate watching this trio in Group 2, hoping that they're not able to qualify. But I don't necessarily have very many doubts that they'll be able to, especially since Rax's trio has already shown us from an uncontested Resistance base in Group 1 that they were able to qualify as well. And the last trio I'm gonna have being able to qualify from getting a win is actually Helkis, Ilusha, and Velry. This is a pretty underrated, more like random type of trio, I would probably say, compared to the other teams that I have in my winning category. But I feel like every single season there is at least one team in each group that is able to be a surprise winner, and I'm gonna go with Ilusha's brand new trio for being that team. Now for the most consistent teams, the first team that I'm gonna have on here, you realize that I probably don't have a lot of the big names that I talked about earlier, and this is where I have pretty much all of them. The first one I'm gonna go with is Tayson, Riss, and Chicho, a trio that has already qualified for LAN, a team that placed 7th place in last Grand Finals. I feel like this is more of just a consistency qualified type of team compared to being able to get a win. The next trio that I can probably say all of those exact same things for, except for the fact that they haven't been able to qualify for LAN yet, is Dexy, Eclipse, and Twy. They were probably one of the best teams in the entire Star Wars season, but unfortunately ever since this season started they have kind of slowed down. So hopefully this can be like the start of the comeback story arc for this trio, and I really do hope that they do super well. The next team I'm gonna go with is Snazy, Ice, and Clement. Maybe a more underrated pick right here, and somebody you guys might not necessarily expect, but they do currently have an uncontested outpost enclave. And man, predicting EU is just so hard because there is so many trios in this lobby that I feel like are on the same type of caliber, and it honestly sometimes just comes down to a 50-50 decision on who you actually think is going to be able to get the job done and which team is probably going to place around that 11 to 12 mark. And then the final two trios that I'm going to go over, I know you Mongrel fans not going to be happy about this one, but I am going to predict Perdage, Contri, and Finnick to be able to qualify through consistency as well. I just think they are too good of a trio to miss out on a Grand Finals, especially when they are fully uncontested. And then the last trio that I'm actually going to go with on here is Twek, Mydro, and Laris. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce their third name, but they do have an uncontested Lone Wolf Lair. They've had some pretty solid placements this season, nothing that would like blow you out of the water. But I mean, like I said earlier, so many of these predictions at the end of the day, especially when we get into these final couple of teams, just came down between a 50-50 between a couple of other trios. So that probably means the main big names that I have that I don't think are going to be able to qualify out of this group, unfortunately, is like Srapped, Hellfire, and Trippern. Absolutely love Trippern, want to see him be able to qualify, but his placements recently just haven't necessarily correlated to me believing in them to be able to qualify for Grands. Robin, Ju, and Kylie, and then also probably Robon, Z Andy, and Faded. Moving on now to Group 3 on NA. I'm not gonna lie, this group is mid to say the least. So the main big names we have in this is like Osid, Sedetto, and Cam at an uncon resistance base. Recooper and Curly uncon Flooded Frogs, Enpen, Zen, and Nut have been uncon Pump Power. Dukes, Edgy, and Chance still uncon at Brutal Boxcars. Curve, Josh, and Tyler also fully uncon. The only real big name team that we currently have that is contested right now is actually a one that I feel like we see every single season in this group stages. Currently, as of things are standing, Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold are going to be contested off spawn by Arsenic, Bluish, and Plasmafy at Demon's Domain. I feel like every single season, at least one trio says they're either going to land on Clix or Peterbot in groups. And this season, it looks like Clix is going to be in the clear, but Peter might not be. Half of the times, these teams are literally just lying, and then by the time game 1 starts, they've already landed at a completely different drop spot. But say this team does land on Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, do I think that's really going to affect them in either way? No, most likely not. They've literally been practicing off spawn against maybe the best or the second best off spawn fighting team in the entire world. If they are somehow losing to Bluish's trio, then Peter just got to pack his bags and go somewhere else. But as I said earlier, I think they'll be just fine. We also have like Death, Sales, and Encrypted contested by Chris off spawn as well. But for my actual game winners, I think, as I said earlier, the trio of Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, not really too concerned about them. I think they'll be able to get the job done and win a game. In season 1, they won won the very first game of their group. Last season, they were not able to win a single game in their group, but still won it and tied for the most elims ever in FNCS Group's history. And then this season, I think they will be able to get back on that winning path and win a game in this group. The next trio that I'm going to say probably won't have too much problems with winning a game is Cooper and Curly. One of the most doubted teams that I feel like is one of our land trios is this team right here. I honestly wouldn't be surprised though if they came out game one and were able to win straight off the bat. The next team I'm going to go with to be able to get a win is Dukes, Edgy, and Chance. Now, I've seen this team just on high ground in a couple of these scrim sessions that led to them being able to get wins. They've had some decent placements, nothing too crazy. I think they are a trio that can get a win though. The next team I'm going to go with is Curve, Josh, and Tyler at Uncontested Outpost Enclave. We saw Rise, G-Money, and Aviv put on an absolute masterclass from that POI. I don't think Curve, Josh, and Tyler are necessarily going to do like a one-to-one replica of that, but I still think they will look very good out of that drop spot, and they should hopefully be able to get a win as well. And then the last team that I'm going to be able to get a win is one of the more underrated teams this season, placing top 10 in multiple Div Cup finals of Osid, Seneto, and Cam. Then for my consistency teams, the first trio I'm going to go with is Noxy, Ozone, and Veer. The next one I know is going to make a lot of you guys happy. I'm going to predict Zen to make his first ever grand finals, and I'm going to go with Npen, Zen, and Nut to be able to qualify for grands. If there's any group stage for Zen to be able to make his first ever grand finals, this is the exact one right here. This group in no way, shape, or form is that stacked at all. Next up, I'm going to go with Zavi, Neko, and Fishy, another trio that has been very solid this season, pretty much being able to earn in every single Div Cup. Next up, I'm gonna go with probably my only trio that I have predicting to be able to qualify from being contested besides Peter's trio of Death, Sales, and Encrypted. I feel like Death is just always one of those players that is able to sneak his way if he's able to finish like exactly 10th place in a group stage to make it into grand finals, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to do that exact same thing this season. And then this last one, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I had no clue who I wanted to pick for this, so I went into ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, pick one random name from this map to be able to make grand finals, and the team that they ended up going with actually has an uncontested rainbow split of Kaji, Kavix, and Brayify. So hey, if they're not able to qualify for grands, then blame it on ChatGPT, but if they are able to qualify for grands, then I guess AI just knows the future. All right, finally, let's move on to what people are saying is probably the most stacked group out of any group we have. We have big names in this like Chat, Mr. Savage, and Rezon, Moneymakers trio contested, Mongrel contested by Josh Bot off spawn, Pink Nebs and Hero here, iDrop Ari and Cammy, Vino Vico and Flixie, Akira Kurma and Warrex, Prism Kiri and Casper, Cringe's trio, Swizzy's trio contested by Artskill for the first time off spawn at Demon's Domain in a set lobby finals. So many very good teams are in this group. Now let's actually move on to what my final predictions are going to be for the most difficult group to predict. All right, so the first team that I'm going to predict to get a win out of this group might just be the best team in this entire lobby of Vico, Vino, and Flixie. They're coming off of getting second place in the recent Div Cup. Vico is saying he is absolutely primed up right now. I am very excited to watch this trio go to work. The next team that I'm going to say is going to be able to get a win are consistency kings of iDrop Hari and Cammy. This team literally got together to be consistent together. They have an uncontested POI, and if they're not able to get a win, then like I was just saying, this team is literally made for a consistency format, and they should be able to qualify for grands no matter what, but I'm actually going to predict them to be able to win a game. The next trio that I'm going to predict to get a win is I'm going to say this team, as soon as they're able to win off spawn, is going to win that game of Swizzy, Queasy, and Murstache. So say they win game 1 off spawn versus Artskills trio, then I'm going to say this is my game 1 winner prediction. Next up, I'm going to go with Prism, Kiri, and Casper. Now Prism and Casper, land qualifiers from last year, super good duo together. They just necessarily haven't been able to fully find the trio that they have gelled with the most yet. They are now playing with Kiri, and I think they will be able to get a win. And then the last trio that I'm going to be able to predict to get a win is a team that actually won an Eval Cup game of Cheatin', Trexer, and Mappy. Now for my consistency trios, the first team that I have on this list is a team that is finally going to have an uncon resistance space in a set lobby finals of Mr. Savage, Chap, and Rezon. I think this is going to be a big week for this team to be able to prove that if they are uncontested, they can look like one of the best trios in the entire world, and a team that deserves to have people saying that they are a potential land qualifying threat. Of course, we know their off spawn situation in grands is probably going to be pretty rough, as they're most likely going to be triple triple contested at resistance base. The next team I'm gonna go with is a trio that I feel like I have just been so high on the entire season. A team that I'm gonna continue to be high on is Pink Nebs and Kiro, fully uncontested at the first order base, a POI that they have been landing at for so long now. Very confident in this trio's ability to be able to make grands and qualify to land this season as well. Next up, I'm gonna go with Fant, Peshka, and Fury. Now, you might be saying, what in the world is this prediction? But hey, slow down for a minute, let me cook here. They have an uncontested Crime City. I think they're gonna be able to get the job done. Next up, I'm gonna go with TD, Moneymaker, and Fanayan. Now, I know that they are contested, but they have looked very solid recently in the tournaments that they have been able to play together. And I am going to say that Moneymaker is going to be able to make it into yet another grand finals. And then the final trio I'm gonna go with in consistency is Akira, Kurama, and Wurex. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, all of these groups were so hard to predict. Let me know which thing you disagree with the most in the comment section down below. Remember, this is all just for a bit of fun at the end of the day. Other than that though, remember, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop. YouTube says they're enjoying one of these 2 videos up on the screen right now, so go check them out if you guys haven't already. Thank God for another day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.